When it comes to winning the Irish St Leger, nobody does it better than Dermot Weld. The Rosewell House handler has taken the final classic on no fewer than 6 occasions. It all began back in 1993 with the great Vintage Crop, who went on to complete an historic double by winning the Melbourne Cup on the first Tuesday in November.
Vintage Crop is storming home on the outside. Vintage Crop on the outside grabs the iconic Mercator, and the cup is going back to England. And Vintage Crop has won the Melbourne Cup. We heard all about you, and he did not let us down. What a training performance, Dermot Weld. They said he couldn't do it, Pete, but he did.
Vintage Crop out in front. He's going to win it for the second consecutive year. And racing up the line, the favourites home. Vintage Crop, the first leg of the double, maybe. Vintage Crop, the easy winner. So Vintage Crop, the Melbourne Cup winner of last year, has won his second Irish St Leger.
Dermot's final classic of the season, fast approaching, a race you've enjoyed considerable success in, like many others throughout your career. The gain feeds Irish St Leger.
Yeah, it's always a great race. It's the final classic. We've been lucky to win it 6 times, and hopefully we'll have a good representative this year.
Obviously, the first of it was Vintage Crop back in 1993, before the first leg of the historic double he completed that year.
Yeah, he was an amazing horse, and as I said, he won it twice for us, and he just got better and then went on and won a Melbourne Cup as well, Kevin.
When did you decide that Vintage Crop, because something like that was unheard of, nobody even thought about going to Melbourne, obviously bar you, but when did you decide the Vintage Crop is the horse that could provide you with your first success?
About a year before he did it, Kevin, was when he won the Kingdom Gold Cup in Tralee, which we won last week with Diplomat and Killarney. When he bolted up with Mick Canaan, I said, this is my horse in the Melbourne Cup. But it was impossible to go there. I actually entered him in the race that year, but it wasn't. They accepted the entry. But to run a horse was not practical or possible because of the flight patterns of the paths of the plains, and because of the quarantine rules at the time, it just was not possible to do it. So we had to get all the quarantine rules changed, and that's what, with work between Canberra and the Irish Department of Agriculture, we gradually got the whole thing changed. So people come and go nowadays, and there's no problems, but in those days it was impossible.
That obviously gave you greater satisfaction then for the whole thing to come off with great success?
It was a wonderful day. He was a smashing horse. He got a great ride from Mick Canaan. Everybody said it couldn't be done. Of course, the Australians were convinced it was madness and it couldn't be done.
And it's going to be a classic for Rosewell as Pat Smullen wins the Leger on Vinnie Rowe for Dermot Weld. Vinnie Rowe wins back-to-back Legers for Pat Smullen and Dermot Weld. Vinnie Rowe heading for his 3rd victory in the race, goes to the front for Pat Smullen. Vinnie Rowe wins his 3rd Leger. Vinnie Rowe, who has owned this race for the last 3 years. This is magnificent from Dermot Weld's performer, striding away to an unprecedented 4th St Leger.
Vinnie Rowe then, that was a fantastic training achievement to win the race 4 times with him in succession.
Yeah, that was one of our special training feats, and one I'm very proud of. Vinnie Rowe was a very special horse, and Pat rode him 4 times to win the Irish St Leger, and we very nearly did it for the 5th and final time. He was beaten a neck, but he was an amazingly tough, consistent horse, a joy to train, and we just had him right on the day every year.
And Dermot, I was with you at the time through Vinnie's time, and he had everything, didn't he? He was tough, he obviously won, he had plenty of speed, he won over 7 as well. He had everything you wanted in a good horse. He
had guts and courage, toughness. He was one of the soundest horses we ever had. There's no such thing as him getting respiratory problems or anything. He just had an engine in him, and I've no doubt he's going to produce a very good horse sooner or later.
Very hard to compare different generations, but was there a lot of similarities between himself and Vintage Crop?
There was in many ways. There was indeed. I think Vinnie Rowe was unlucky not to win a Melbourne Cup. He was unfortunate. He tried to give way to Macavie Diva, who was one of the best mares of all times of Australia, and that particular year that she beat him a neck, she got the run of the race up the inside.
Macavie Diva clear. She's out by 2 lengths to Vinnie Rowe. It's Macavie Diva clear, and she's going to do what no mare has ever done. Macavie Diva wins it again. Vinnie Rowe 2nd.
And Vinnie Rowe put up a superb performance. I must remember Media Puzzle when he won our 2nd Melbourne Cup. He was getting £12 from Vinnie Rowe. So he put up some outstanding performances in defeat, apart from winning.
Now, Media Puzzle won the Melbourne Cup. He really came into himself when he went to Australia. He won the Geelong Cup, which is obviously a top-class trial, only the week previous to that.
Yeah, he's a horse that loves warm weather and firm ground. And when we won the Melbourne Cup the first time with Vintage Crop, it rained that morning, and everybody said, you know, a European horse wouldn't have won it only for the rain. So that's why I was keen to come back when the ground was firm, and it was like bell metal to win it with Media Puzzle.
Moving on to the Irish St. Leger, Sapphire looks to be the most likely representative from Rosewell House this year.
She's a much improved filly. She's won her Group 3s very impressively both times in Cork. Pretty adaptable ground-wise, but she's a good filly.
And a good run when stepped up to Group 1 company when chasing home Izzy Top in the Group 1 Pretty Polly this season.
Yeah, that was a very good run. She's a very consistent, genuine mare. A lot to look forward to with her.
Would you have any little worry about Sapphire? She's won over 1.5 miles. Would she get the extra 2 furlongs?
Has to be a question mark there. Definitely has to be a slight question mark, but she's a very relaxed mare. She's 1.5 miles in Cork, going away both times. She's won 1.5 miles at the Curragh in very testing ground in the finale stakes last year. And she's only getting going at the end of 1.5 miles, I thought. And
that filly, that pedigree seems to improve a little bit of time. She didn't run as a 2-year-old, but she goes back to the great trusted partner in that.
Yeah, she was a very backward filly herself, but time has paid dividends with her, and we've a lot to look forward to in the future with her.
And what does it take to win an Irish St. Leger?
Toughness. Depends on the day. Sometimes it can be a very testing day for man and beast. But a horse got to stay well, he's got to be tough, but he's got to have a touch of class. He's got to have that pace that a good stayer has to have. He's got to be a stayer with speed.
How important is the Irish St. Leger to you?
It's a special race because I've been fortunate to win it 6 times and to win it with some very good horses, and it's a great test of stamina. And that's why the classics are the classics. You've got the Guineas over a mile, we know, and the Derby and the Oaks, but the Leger is the extreme test over the 1.6 miles.